Okay, there we go. Hello, everybody. It's been a while. Okay. Um, I'm one of the hosts, Jasmine. This is the Witch's Black Lent, the Feast of Fiends. Okay. We're excited to see all of you. Thank you all for joining. This is the end of the Witch's Black Lent 2025, which is crazy. But let me have the hosts and the co-hosts introduce themselves and we will go from there.
Hello, I'm Trish, and I have a channel here called Beanbag Hagwag, and I'm just a plain old witch. And the Black Lent is over, and I'm so happy.
All right, everybody. My name's Lennon, Lennon Smith here on YouTube, and I had a really good experience with the Lenten season this year, and I am excited to wrap it up, but it's going to be kind of bittersweet for me. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Abby the Witch, and yeah, I'm happy that it's over too, but I had a wonderful experience, and I'm excited to be here with these lovely witches and to chat about it.
So maybe we should start with just talking about how it was, how the Lent was. I don't know. I didn't really write out like a proper document, so we're just kind of going on the whim here.
We'll wing it.
Didn't y'all all do Pride?
I did Pride.
I did Wrath.
Oh, okay. You did Wrath.
Yeah.
And
Okay, I'll say that the Lent for me has been very personal, and I know that I've been in contact with other witches this Lent season who have had similar things. For those of you watching, Lorelai would love to be here. She is not able to be here. She is with us all in spirit. I mean, she's still here in the physical, but she's with us in spirit for the live stream. She has some stuff going on, but yeah, weather here in the Midwest has been crazy. We've had tornadoes, we've had floods, we've had some really, I would say second and third circle of hell type weather, honestly. But yeah, for me, like, I just felt like this Lent season, like I wanted to make more content. I wanted to post every week. I posted some on TikTok. I posted some on like the community page. But I couldn't get myself there. Like I felt like Wrath was like, you've been so angry for so long that why don't you just not, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been interesting because like I've been afraid of working with sloth because like the idea of sitting still kind of scares me. So it's interesting that Wrath was actually like, so what if you don't have to be angry? And I was like, what? So
was it Wrath that made you like sit on your ass more?
Yeah, I was kind of like, so
like you had an angry armchair.
Yeah. So I did still do the prompts. Like I made some delicious fire cider. I made an effigy out of sticks and some red thread. And I had a beautiful fire ritual with some of the SCC folks. But like I didn't record it and I didn't want to.
Yeah. I didn't either.
And sometimes it's really like I filmed mine about my effigy, which was like a ward. I made like a ward, like you with sticks and thread and stuff. And it was really fun. But I ended up recording myself doing that. But because it was so fun, I love to craft like that. And it was just me on my dining room table doing it, scratching it the hell up. So
love that.
Yeah. Working with Pride was difficult, and I didn't post much because I was feeling any pride kind of embarrassing. Just because, you know, I've always felt like inadequate, and learning to see what I am capable of. And I even took some time off of YouTube. I didn't make any content. I was just trying to figure out, like, do I have anything of value, to say? And it really taught me how to. I found it empowering at the end, because I feel like I'm just kickstarting things that I've been putting away for the last 2 years. I really haven't paid a lot of attention to witchcraft, except for the daily stuff you do. And I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to my art or my shop. And I was second guessing whether I was worth it or not. And finding pride after all these years, it's been really empowering and good. And I feel like things are going in the right direction.
And your latest video about, like, I don't even want to say it out loud, Trish. I mean, seriously, the thumbnail of "Am I Too Old for YouTube?" I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna cry. Don't say that. Don't say it. But I kind of felt your pride work coming out in that video too, and dreams and stuff. And it was really enlightening, because it felt like, when your real life kind of impacts what you're doing in your witchcraft too. Like, sometimes they don't always marry, but sometimes they do. And like, real life will like weave itself literally into like what you got going on. And like, that's even you, like when we started this, you felt bad for me for working for Gluttony. Luckily I hadn't gained any weight. Okay. but it wasn't really, it was more symbolic for me. And then a lot of things inside, like the world, like the rulings, okay, and then all of that, and then the Pope dying, like all of this was like coming to a head, and it kind of felt like there was a lot of witchcraft running. I'm nothing about that, but there was so much witchcraft running under the surface of all of that, and it's like so much of our power was coming up with this, like we were really, or I was trying to come up with the spring and match what the world was doing. So crazy. It was crazy. When I heard about the Pope dying the day after Easter, that blew my mind. I was like, that's some divine work happening. I don't even know.
Yeah. And he was so capable of speaking.
I know.
That surprised me that he could do that.
One of those like meeting. He had like a meeting, like a meet, or I don't even know, some kind of meeting on Easter. Met with a lot of people. So it was weird. It's almost like life and the rulings and what was going on in the world, UK and all that came, like a lot of that stuff came to a head in this season. And I don't know. It seems like
he met with JD.
Everyone dies when they meet with him.
Yeah, he met with JD Vance, and he died like right after he told Trump and JD Vance. Well, he just told America, basically told Trump that you can't run a country based on your religion. Like, you can't tell people what to do based on what your faith tells you.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Yeah.
And even he knows that.
I know.
Right.
Literally. No, literally.
Literally. The fucking Pope. Come on.
Right.
So let's say this. What part of this Lent did you find the most challenging?
Oof. The whole thing.
Just sitting with the feeling of it all. I mean, that poem came right out of my head, and I had no problem doing my effigy or anything. But at first, just sitting with being prideful, it took me a while, because, who wants to gloat? And it just felt embarrassing, so embarrassing. So just sitting with the feeling of being like, I can do things. I'm good at some things. Yeah.
Yeah. I struggled with, because I worked with pride also.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, especially in our society, we're taught like, don't gloat, be quiet, like don't want to have a big head, And I
Well,
struggled with
I don't
convincing
think we're
myself.
taught that, I'm sorry. We're not,
No,
I don't think
okay.
I don't think we're taught the line between having confidence and gloating. We're
Right.
not taught the line because there
Right.
is the line.
Right. There's a double, we're taught like, oh, you should be more confident, don't have low self-esteem, but also don't brag about it. Like there's like, you have to.
Don't be a bad winner,
Yeah. It's stupid. That's a good point. Thank you, Lennon. But I really struggled with, I realized that I need to give myself more grace because I feel like I don't deserve to feel pride without being perfect, which is like crazy. Like what?
Yeah.
So I learned that I need to give myself much more grace, especially as like someone who's a parent. I'm not going to be a perfect parent. I'm just not. It's impossible. And something that I learned too that our unholy father told me is that we're all born into sin. I don't know if you guys watched I just posted a video earlier today.
I did. I just did about a half hour ago.
Yeah. We're all born into sin. And what that really means is it's our human right to sin, right? Everyone has a right to feel pride, right? It's not an excuse to just be a shitty person, of course. But walking the path of do as thou wilt means using things like empathy and critical thinking skills, right? And if you are capable of doing those things, then you should be very proud, right? The path of the witch is hard. And if you can do it, then you should be very proud of yourself. So.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I don't know. I realized that I really need to, I deserve to give myself grace, and I deserve to feel pride. There's no reason I can't feel those things. So, yeah.
Well, I don't know if anything was particularly challenging for me for gluttony, but it was more so that I was stepping into more of the things that I wanted to do. And so I was engorging more, and I was in this cycle of like engorge and empty. And it was really making it a point to me that if I was gluttonous, I also needed to purge. And so the cycle was what was most confusing part, I would say. And it came up in my ritual the most because it was literally this sin eater trying to make new sins. And it was so crazy. That was challenging because I'd never had to stop a ritual, in the middle of it. I just kind of let them play out, and I made it. So it was like, okay, but I stopped and kind of ate at some things, but with the cycles, instead of just focusing on gluttony, it wanted me to focus on the emptiness too, the emptiness that you can feel, and the goodness, the good and the negative of what comes with empty. And that could be spiritual emptiness, emotional emptiness, and then also engorging on that too. So that was challenging, I think. And then I lost my dog this Lenten season, and that was pretty rough. I mean, she was pretty old, so that. But with that death, I rode her spirit through some like a couple of creative endeavors, and I just poured so much of that empty and engorged energy into some things I'm creating, into some books that I'm doing, and into some like decks that I'm making and all that. And I poured so much creativity from the gluttonous, I was eating of the fruits of creativity, I guess you could say, and then trying to find the balance between, okay, I want to do this 24/7, and then, okay, I need a break, and I'm going to let that go. I need a break, and I'll do something else. And I think that the most challenging thing was not to focus solely on, the hedonism. And there needs to be a balance. So much like everything else, I guess.
Well, and I've really enjoyed all of your videos that you've made. I think you've done an amazing job making gluttony look so fierce, honestly, truly. I've been like, when I get ready before work, I like put your video on. Like, it doesn't have to even be like the Black Lent, because like you make so much, like some of your other videos, I just like put them on. I get ready for work. I listen to you like a podcast, and it feels like we're hanging out, and I love that. For me, this Black Lent, I think the most challenging part was actually really leaning into wrath, because I felt like wrath this year was really calling me to just kind of sit with it, which I wasn't expecting, because like I was excited the beginning of Black Lent. I was like, oh, wrath, like, because I do have so much wrath in me innately, kind of like lust, where I thought lust was going to be really easy for me because I have so much of that. But I feel like wrath this year for me was very much like, you've been so angry for so long, and there's so much to be wrathful about. And like, you have every right to be, but also, what if you just didn't? And so like that kind of inspired my lack of content. Like, when I had some of the Coven folk over, and like we had a sacred fire ritual, and we like burnt the effigy, and I used the incense and the oils that I made, I just didn't feel called to make content about it. And I feel like if I had made content about it, it wouldn't be content that I would want to put out. So like, you guys get it, because you're all content creators. Like, if you're not feeling it, it's not going to be it. You know what I mean? So yeah, this wrath Lenten tide has been interesting, because it's not at all what I expected. It's actually been very peaceful. I've read 6 different books. I've watched 4 different folk horror movies in the 6 weeks that we've had. And I've really enjoyed just kind of being soft. Surprisingly, for wrath has been my experience. So yeah.
Well, and I wanted to add something to, because I worked with wrath last year, and it's interesting because, you know, wrath doesn't have to look like intense, right? Wrath doesn't have to look like throwing things or screaming or cussing, or, you know, wrath can be quiet and patient and, you know, strategic even, you know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that resonates with you at all, Jasmine, but.
Well, and I think cunning, Trish, is kind of, to me, being cunning is the heart of being a traditional folkloric witch.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Abby, like the softness of wrath, absolutely. Like, I feel like I put so much of my wrath into Collio's Night, into the magical resistance. That like coming off the back of all of that work, I feel like the sin of wrath was like, you can be angry, you can be upset, but why not like take care of yourself? Because like, yeah, the whole world or X, Y, and Z might feel very spiky, right? I mean, things have been going crazy politically in the Midwest, in Tennessee, in Florida, down in the South. I mean, there's a lot of issues that have very much affected my mental health. Also, the shit going on in the southern border of Lebanon, where I have relatives living right now that are being affected. Like, that's rough. It's rough to wake up every single day and there's some new Ragnarok. There's some new Armageddon every single day.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. It is. Yeah.
I think some people, like, I would think that wrath would have been like the Godzilla, you know, like stomping through, spouting dragon fire, you know, and there's something very powerful actually about, I don't want to use the word just anger, but it was like this roiling, right? this anger that, like you said, gets you up in the morning despite what is happening. And in spite of that, and like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go to my altar. Okay. I'm going to my altar. I'm bringing your ass to my altar. This is not enough. I'm not just going to do this and do that. I'm going to take this right over here to the sacred space and damn anybody who says not, for me not to. And it's like that comment said, soft wrath, there's patient wrath, there's so many types of wrath. And I think getting to know the sins like this is so important. I really do. Because for the couple of years that I've been doing this, it feels like I'm getting to know the sins on deeper levels, really. And it's been real powerful because all the things that you want to go to stereotypically with the sins, I always try to work with the virtues as well, but typically I really want to get like to the core and the essence of what these sins really mean. And some of them they look totally different and act totally different than what they would say on paper. And they're fine with that. Like they're literally fine with it. They're like, okay, say what you want to say. I don't care,
Yeah,
And
I never really put much thought into any of them before we started doing this.
Yay.
Yeah. And I think that, because I agree, Lynn, and last year I was like, oh, wrath, it's going to be like this huge intense, and it is intense, but it totally caught me off guard. Like it wasn't what I expected. This year with Pride, I was like, oh, this will be like really smooth and it will be like comfortable. No, it kicked my ass,
And I don't want to interrupt you, but I do just want to take a moment to say that selfie that you posted, honey.
Oh, I know.
That selfie.
Oh,
Abby.
Oh,
So good.
Abby,
So
the selfie.
you repressed that selfie.
You were like living in your pride.
It was good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Like we don't really have to see your skin for the pride to come out in you, because but damn.
But it was gorge. It was gorgina. It was gorgeous.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm blushing. But yeah, stepping into Aries season too, being in Aries and working with Pride, I was like, you know what? Let me just snap this photo really fast.
Are you a sun sign Aries?
Yes. Yep. And it's funny, Jasmine, too, that you said that your sin tapped into sloth a little bit, because mine tapped into lust. Obviously, with those pictures being taken, you probably could have picked up on that. But lust has also been the sin that I've been afraid to work with. So it's interesting that it kind of tapped into that as well. It was almost like a twofer. It was almost a 2-for-1 this year.
I think a lot of them are married,
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean,
I
all
think
the
there's like
sins.
this cool polygamous relationship going on with all of them.
Well, and they say the siblings are the sins are like a big sibling family. Like some people say, oh, pride is the mother of all sins. Some people say, oh, pride is the eldest sibling of all sins.
I would say that, yeah.
And it goes through like a whole order. I was talking with the Leo witch and Astradia, and we were talking about like working with our different sins, because I think both of them were also working with pride. And I was like, okay, if you were to pair pride with a different sin, like who would you pair it with? And I was thinking of pairing my wrath with lust, but no, my wrath, at least this year, I think, I think the sins are mutable, and like this is 2025. So maybe in 2028 or 2030, maybe I'll experience wrath differently. But sloth, being the sin that I have felt the most adverse to, did actually, it came through a little bit with wrath, because wrath and sloth were both like, you've been angry for a while. Why not take care of yourself? Because your existence and your survival is resistance. And I was like gagged by that revelation, because I was like, what do you mean? Like, what should I be doing?
I too thought those two were really close together because when I did sloth, I was so exhausted at that time and I was angry at that time. And yeah, they went together very well.
Yeah, it was shocking to me because I
Mhm.
was like, oh, let's have wrath and lust. Like that'll be fun. But then wrath was like, no. Let me bring in the youngest sibling. Because
Yeah.
sloth in the birth order is the baby child, y'all.
Yeah.
Wrath was
But-
like, so be angry, but also here's sloth. And I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, someone just said it's a potent emotion, or anger is draining. Maybe that's why they go so well together, because it can be very exhausting. I think that wrath can be very productive. I think it can be extremely useful, but it can be very draining. So
Well,
maybe
yeah,
that's why
at the end
sloth,
of the day, you're exhausted.
right? So maybe that's why wrath and sloth go together so well. It's like,
I'm like, every
Get
time you
rest.
say wrath and lust, I think of, you remember that Angelina Jolie when she was with I don't know what is his name.
Billy Bob?
Yeah, Billy Bob Thornton. They had like this cutter relationship, you know, where they would like knife each other and stuff. You know? I'm like, whatever.
weird.
I think of that with wrath and lust. I think of that kind of, you know, that kind of thing. I'm like,
Intense.
Well, and like with wrath and lust, it's giving me like Mars and Venus.
Mhm.
And I'm here for that. Like,
Yeah.
honey, like I feel like as a trans woman, I am Mars and Venus. Like I feel so connected to both of them that like my anger and my lust, of course. And pride feels very familiar too. I've had to be. But yeah, wrath kind of brought me into the sin that I was the most afraid of, which was, well, not necessarily afraid of, but the most adverse to, which was sloth. Because I feel like wrath can also kind of be like the candle that burns at both ends.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you can only do that for so long, you know?
Right. I'm so glad I picked sloth last year because I had just come off my brother-in-law's death and things were rough and I needed to sit back and just rest. I was so angry.
Yeah, you I think it really helped you to have sloth last year.
I do too.
Like it slowed you down a little bit enough to rest, you know?
Mhm.
Well,
Mhm.
so I can see in the video.
I mean, not to speak too early, but like maybe I will do sloth next year.
I know. Now I want to work with less next year. I'm like, that feels
Like-
kind of
Like
honest.
maybe. I was planning on working with sloth in my 7th year of this.
Yeah,
which
with
when would
Lash.
that be? We've done 3 years of this now, so
2029.
yeah, I was planning on doing sloth like later, right? But maybe I'll
I
do
want to
next
do it
year.
again.
I don't know.
You know what's
I'm
weird?
also kind of feeling maybe gluttony, just because I feel like Lennon, you make gluttony look so good, babe.
It was. Oh, girl.
Like I'm
No.
thinking, oh, maybe I'll do gluttony next year.
I've been afraid of
me
that
is-
one.
Part of me also like wants
Yeah.
to do greed next year. So
Greed was fun.
Greed was fun. I did that last year.
Mm-hmm.
You know what was weird about gluttony this year is that I don't know. I mean, I work with the goddess, okay, like in a total abstract sense, and I work with a couple of faces of the dark ones, you know, and usually Hecate is the one that's like, you know, on the rotary phone all the time with me, but gluttony opened more of a relationship with me and Lilith. Weird, okay, which was weird because I would have thought that Lilith would have, because I work with my goddesses along with my Lenten work, and I actually went on this like huge thing with Lilith, and I was like, this is gluttony, what are you doing here? You know? Like I thought maybe pride, wrath was good for her, maybe even sloth, because in my
Lust.
book, lust, of course. And then I would have worked with her. I would have found it less confusing to work with her in the other sins like that. But when she came up for me with gluttony, it was almost like she was salivating. That was the word I was using for that word and like the hedonistic part of gluttony came up, and it was almost like the this eating of all of the abominations. She came up like Babylon, and I was doing so much scarlet work with Lilith that I even did a whole bunch of like creative endeavors with her. She just, I don't know, her and her horns just came in and blasted me with gluttony this year. So that was a little weird. She helped me be a little bit, I mean, I pretty much do have like an ecstatic witchcraft about myself, but she really came in and allowed me to salivate literally on a lot of stuff. And there was a lot of talk about, like in my poem that I wrote, it was like with her help, you know, she was using words like satiate and salivate and ravenous. And she helped me come up with some of these words. And, like one of the lines in my poem was, I swallowed riots in righteousness. And that came right out of Lilith. I mean, she was just there helping me write that. And we just sat in sacred space, you know, and I had like this red velvet vision, you know, like she was like draped in scarlet velvet. And it's just, I don't know. It was really, really weird to work with her with gluttony, but it makes sense now looking back.
I was looking for the book, Lynette, Immaculate Immortality. I was looking for it up on my bookshelf. If y'all are watching, go check out Immaculate Immortality. Gorgeous. Honey, she's a poet. I was looking for it on my shelf. I realized I let one of my Coven mates borrow it. So they're enjoying it right now.
In my book, I wrote quite a bit of poems to Lilith. I mean, like one of mine was about ball gagging somebody. I mean, it was just like crazy stuff.
And also, I love your art and that.
Oh, thanks.
Let's talk about Immaculate Immortality separately. Like, because I would love to have you on the channel and we'll talk about it. But for those of you watching for the Black Lent, Lynn is a poet, if you didn't know it. So, like, Google her. Look her up on Amazon. Find her books. Honey.
Yeah. And like Lilith in that book, I mean, we'll talk about like later, but with Lilith, what got me about her was the stereotype. And like working with her in gluttony was weird because the temple that I designed for her for Immaculate Immortality was this like, have y'all ever been to like a hookah lounge kind of thing? Like where the beds are on the floor and stuff. That's what it felt like. It felt very heady. The air was very perfumed. There was like cots on the floor and you just like lounge. And it's about like this tantalized need, right? And she just kind of feeds you this need that you have to get on to. So it was weird because I had already kind of worked with her in those capacities. So gluttony, working with her with this, it came out of left field. So, but anyway, somebody else can talk now. I talk y'all's ear off sometimes when I get on here.
I wound up working with Lucifer a lot because, you know, that's just obvious with Pride, right? And man, I felt very motherly kind of. And
I felt the same way when I worked with Pride. It felt like Lucifer, but it also felt like mother, like combined. And I felt like vanity sin, or like the spirit that I associate with Pride in my second book, the Liber Spiritus, which is like the extended codex. I made this graphic for the Sin of Pride that was inspired by Him from Powerpuff Girls. If you guys aren't familiar, Him is a transsexual lobster villain from Powerpuff Girls. Very much like a drag queen, very much giving like high femme, but like with a goatee. And like, that's how Pride felt to me. It's like Lucifer, but she, her.
Yeah.
Now, were you saying that you felt like his mother? When you felt like oh man, just thinking about Lucifer having a mom. Ooh.
Well, I did feel motherly because I could understand how he must have felt, you know. Yeah, I did feel motherly. Weird as that sounds.
Yeah.
He almost felt more like a child to me. at times.
Hmm. That must have been powerful to work with him in that capacity.
That's
You
why
don't
I was
think
so
about it,
quiet. I didn't share a whole lot of it.
To know. So Trish, like we kind of started this, 3 years ago or whatever. And I was like, I can't believe that like the Satanic Temple hasn't already subverted Lent. Like, that's crazy. And you grew up Catholic. So I would love to know, like, you connecting more with Lucifer. Like, can we hear more about that? Like,
Well,
what was Lucifer like growing up versus now?
Lucifer, I don't consider him to be the Satan or the devil. I just don't consider him that. Back
I don't
when
either. Yeah,
when I
I don't
was
either.
young, yeah, but not anymore. Not anymore.
I feel like Lucifer, Satan, and the devil, for some people, have all become like one entity.
Yes.
But I kind of look at them as like this unholy trinity that they're
There you
actually
go.
very
Bingo.
different. Like when I think of Lucifer personally, I think of Lucifer in the Etruscan sense from like the Gospel of Witches, from Aradia. I think of like the pagan Lucifer. I also think of like the upper world or like the heavenly Lucifer who fell as a star down to
He was
earth.
a freaking angel.
Yeah. A lord of light, a son of the dawn, a son of Venus, a son of Aurora. When I think of the devil, I think of like a terrestrial, earthly, and also otherworldly sort of like horned and antlered entity. And when I think of Satan, I think of like a title of a person that runs hell. Like Satan, Shaitan, is associated with the underworld and hell. But the devil is like here on earth or in the other world. And like Lucifer fell from the heavens and descended.
Perfect analogy.
Right?
I just did a reading of the three worlds, the three realms, and that just matches up perfectly with what I do in like my readings and stuff. It's so crazy that you're explaining it like this because I think the same thing about them. Like, you need one like Satan would be Hades, but then you need one that's frolicking in the forests,
right,
and
like
the other worlds, and in this mid world, and you need like a Pan figure. And then you need a heavenly one that's more angelic.
Yeah. And so I kind of consider that like the unholy trinity. But I would say that most, or at least a lot of Christians that at least I've been familiar with, and also like Muslims that are in my family that like I'm also familiar with, it seems like they kind of combine all three of these as like, it's the devil. Like Lucifer, Satan, the devil. It's Satan.
Growing up, I thought they were all the same.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah. It's interesting too because growing up, the Holy Trinity that I was taught about in church, like the Father, Son, the Holy Ghost, they were all the same. They're all one, but they're all separate faces of God, basically. And that's how I kind of think of this unholy trinity, right? I think of the devil, Satan, and Lucifer as all in one, but they're just different faces of what I call the devil, right? Or that certain entity. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But yeah.
Is Baphomet the same to you guys too? Or is he
I think Baphomet is also a face of the devil, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I personally do. But I work with the devil, so I'm a devil worshiper.
Right,
so.
right.
I mean, I am too. I think Baphomet, for me, I look at the original sense that Baphomet was an alchemale like symbol of like male, female, human, beast, heaven, earth.
Yeah.
Right, wrong, good, evil. Like Baphomet really started as like honestly maybe the most popular egregore in the sense that like Baphomet was in the image that we know it, right, was kind of made by Elphys Levi. But I feel like there's been so much devotion to the symbol of Baphomet that I do think that Baphomet has become an entity of their own accord. And I think that, yeah, of course, like, I mean, the devil can appear in any face that you wish them to.
Right.
Um,
But
Well,
where did
he's
Levi get that
described
idea?
with like solve coagula, so that's that's to me, I consider Baphomet to be like the alchemical devil.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I would agree with that too.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
instead of like having like he's like another emanation of, like you said, like there's many faces, and I think that
I think
Baphomet,
Baphomet is also very queer. I mean, Baphomet
Yeah.
literally has tits and a dick. So the amount
and
of like
wings and
white
claws.
supremacists,
Wait.
the amount of like white supremacists that use the imagery of Baphomet in their Viking metal bands, but yet they hate trans women, floors.
Oh my God. It's so fucking
Like Baphomet literally has double D silicone titties and a 9-incher. Like, let's just be real. Like, Baffy is
and is sitting on the earth, like
literally
rocking it.
no,
and
literally.
squatting, which is typically like a birthing position.
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah.
So they're making
Right.
stuff, they're impregnating, and then they're giving birth all in the same thing. Yeah, that's definitely some queer magic happening. You know? And I love the imagery of him. Like, really.
Yeah, I love Baphomet. Yeah.
I mean, just looking at the picture, just was like, oh, I love
And
it.
I think there's always so much, like, at least I've noticed too, and I'm sure you guys have too, that there's like debate. There's always this ongoing debate of is this Satan or is this the devil or not?
Yeah.
And so many people will be like, well, it's not, and well, yeah, it is, and it's like, okay, well, it's, and Jasmine, you've said this before too, but the devil or Satan, he's not supposed to be completely understandable to people.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you can debate until your face turns blue or whatever, how the fuck that saying goes. But I mean, you're never gonna know. He doesn't want you to, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And like
I'm cool with that.
I love the present that you got, that you shared too, of the Gustave Doré picture that you got.
Oh yeah,
Oh my God. Oh,
I'm obsessed. I
I
know.
love
I
it.
literally held it against my heart, like
that picture of Lucifer. Oh,
beautiful.
Oh.
Beautiful, right? I also have a t-shirt with like the iconic image of Lucifer falling, and he's like this, and he's crying.
mhm.
It gives me goosebumps. I love that.
Now
picture.
the one of him falling with his wings by Doré, like he like looks like he's just like falling like
yes,
a wet
sky.
stone.
Right. I
Oh,
love it.
so good.
Beautiful.
But yeah, there's so many depictions, you know, and I haven't worked with I don't know. I mean, he's kind of right here. He's always right here, but I haven't like actually worked with any emanations of Lucifer, Satan, or the devil. But when I did a devil study this year, like 6 months ago, I believe, where I read all kinds of books about the devil.
Watch your video. Yeah.
Oh, so good. Because the history, like y'all said, it was many little entities, and then they just kind of like they went like this.
Yep.
And then before you know it, the whole thing turns into, like Jasmine said, this egregore, where the whole concept of this devil has gotten so much power, you know. And I really think that Anton LaVey, he would have liked our chats. Okay, I think he would have liked our chats.
I've worked with Lucifer in the past, and I've like a lot, and I consider him to be more of like what my witch father would be.
I was
But
about
I've
to say,
worked with
Trish,
him.
I was like, so how does this play into the witch?
Yeah,
father?
This was so different than the relationship I have with him outside of this Witch's Black Lent thing. Like totally different relationship there.
Okay, so we're at like the 46-minute mark. We do have to hop off here at 8. But before we do, I would like to know, did any of you explore Dante's Inferno or connect with that anymore, or have any thoughts about the Inferno that you would like to share?
Of course. But Abby looked really excited.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. Anyone can talk. I'm just excited because the past 2 years I hadn't explored it, and I finally did this year. So
How did it feel?
it felt good. Yeah. I watched that little like animated
Yeah.
little video. It's like 30 minutes long. Yeah. The poet, the guy, what's his name again?
Virgil.
Is it Virgil or something like that? The that
Died.
wrote the poem or whatever.
Well, I was going to say there is also a musical. And if you have
Oh my
not
gosh.
listened to the musical,
I
honey,
think it's iconic.
you need to take an evening, pour yourself a nice glass of some dry red wine, and listen to the full musical around a fire. Oh, honey. Oh, it's fierce. Or have a gummy or whatever your preference is. I just feel like it hits different with like a glass of dry red because I feel like the Inferno calls for it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And with the fire, like I just want to be locked in a cabin somewhere with nothing on, just nude in front of a roaring fire, locked in that place. Snow has covered up the whole thing. I'm locked in for a few days and just have the musical going. That just sounds like heaven. Weirdly
Well,
enough.
and I feel like as Midwest witches, like we kind of start the Black Lent, at least here in Indiana. Here in the Midwest, honey, it's snow. It's
Yeah.
freezing when the Black
Mhm.
Lent starts.
Yeah.
And then when the Black Lent ends, it's like, oh, it's the vernal green.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Interesting.
That's nice. I'm so envious of y'all's weather for real, because like it's been 80 degrees Fahrenheit for months already here. So
It's super humid, I bet.
I mean, do you want some of our tornadoes? Because we have those aplenty,
I don't know.
you know?
We did have a tornado come through my neighborhood. So like a mile from me in our summer storms, our tornado season is like in the summer, you know, like the beginning of summer. So we're still months out from that, but we did get a stray off of you guys' storm chutes. We got a stray tornado come through our neighborhood, but it's really rare to get tornadoes in the spring. We have rainy springs. It's just soggy here and humid.
I mean, I think that the earth it's shifting. And I have like
It
some
is.
thoughts about that, but like the seasons are shifting.
Yeah.
The
I noticed that
times are
as a
shifting.
gardener.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What were we saying?
Dante's Inferno. Sorry.
Oh.
Abby,
Ooh,
Dante's Inferno. What do you think? You got into it?
Yeah, I think the poet was like, because like in the actual, like if you read the actual like epic poem or whatever, if you actually read it, it wasn't in the animated video, but there's a part where like he's walking and there's like a dead poet that he sees in hell, and he like walks up to him and he's like, "Oh, you're such a great poet. Oh, let me stroke your ego." Oh, it's like, I don't know. I just feel like he's just like so full of shit. But anyway, other than that, I did enjoy it. And I think it's very interesting that there's so many like famous Greek, was it Greek and Roman? Yeah. People like philosophers, and there were, God, who else was down there that he saw? Was Cleopatra in there? Cleopatra was there in the Lust, Ring of
Lust, yeah.
Yeah. So there's all these like famous figures. I don't know. It was a ballsy move on his part, I feel like. But
hey, he was condemned for this.
Yeah.
He was exiled after this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure if it was because of this, but he was exiled from Florence. My favorite part of it is when they are in hell. I would have liked more hell, or the last circle where they're at the frozen lake. I would have liked more than that, because the ending just kind of, it's rushed, really. Like they're at the frozen lake, then all of a sudden they see this 3-headed devil, okay, who's Brutus and Cassius and all that, and you're like, that's it? Then there's like this cave opening over here that lets me out. That's it?
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna fight nobody. Nobody's trying to eat me. Like, what the hell?
That's like the bottom pit where Satan's at, right?
Yeah. He's like, see, Satan is like frozen in the frozen lake in the very bottom, like the very pit. And they just go up. I mean, they just see him and like they talk to him for a little while, and that's it. Like no one's really.
Well, also it's interesting that the exit of
Yeah.
the Inferno is that very bottom, like underneath Satan is
Yeah.
where the exit is.
Yeah.
And they leave through that.
Yeah.
In
But
the-
they
in the-
climb down his body, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I need to see the musical.
Oh my gosh, you guys,
I
seriously,
haven't.
I will send you like a link because you
Oh,
have
yeah.
you have to at least listen to the musical.
I
Like if you
will.
don't watch the whole
Honestly.
play, because there is also a play. Yeah.
Oh,
So did they
also-
do the parts? Did they do the entire thing, or is it just the Inferno?
I'm only familiar with like the Inferno.
Right.
But they probably do have Paradiso and Purgatorio.
Okay.
I wanted to say something about that though that I found out this year, that most of the sins are in purgatory. So
Mhm.
you know how in
The
Inferno
pagans.
we really only see most of the layers of hell aren't even a sin. They're like hearsay.
Yeah, because there's in Dante's Inferno, he has 9 layers of hell, but there's
Mhm.
only 7 sins.
Yeah, but they're not even in
Mhm.
there. Like when you read the old, well, I read it in Old English. So you see lust and you see gluttony and you see pride, but then the other ones don't even, they're either named different, and some people can say that they're named different or whatever. But when you get to Purgatorio, that's when you start to see because there's layers in Purgatorio too. There's like layers of purgatory, and as he's like in between these layers or whatever, that's when you start seeing more of the sin. So it's pretty cool.
Interesting.
No, I haven't.
You know, I went on a little, not to get too personal, but I went on a little witch flight to explore it more, and I descended into the circles of hell. And there was a she-wolf. I met that she-wolf, and it was almost like my fetch spirit that like guided me to the mouth of hell. And I also believe, I read somewhere too that Leviathan's gaping mouth is the entrance to hell, which is interesting. I
Now
would like to learn about that.
that's a really powerful medieval motif for hell, is that hell is a mouth. The entrance to hell is a mouth.
Mhm.
And it's like this huge.
Yeah, I felt like in the other world, there's a hell mouth in like the southeast.
Right. Like under a tree, right?
Yeah.
Horse.
Mhm.
Before we wrap this up, we got like 6 minutes. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Do you have any advice for anyone next year who might be partaking in the Witch's Black Lent? What would you tell someone who's doing it for the first time next year? What advice would you give them?
Well, you've already said one. Like, try not to do the one that you're most scared of first. Now, I wouldn't say that normally, because I could say, like, work with the one that you're you don't want to work with first. I'm usually one of those. Like, I'll try the worst one first. I'll try the worst way possible first. But that's just my personality. I want to get the worst one out of the way. But that's not what happened with me. I started with greed, which was one of those. It was one of those I was like about. I didn't have a lot of shadow around that. But you could start in one that you kind of feel more blasé about, instead of one that you've got deep shadows in or traumas in.
Yeah.
For the first year, because it's such a powerful experience, starting one that you feel like you could be familiar with. I mean, it's still going to turn you on your ass, okay? But start with one that you feel familiar with and that you feel like you have a connection with already. And then that's a way to dip your toes in, but it's still, just know that, like, for me at least, all the years are pretty profound, and it tends to knock me on my ass no matter what I want to do with it. So,
Yeah, be ready.
yeah.
Yeah.
And sorry, hold on. And I will say that I kind of changed up some of the days. I love you guys' prompts, you and Jasmine and Trisha's prompts, because they came up with this map for us to follow for this week, and it's beautiful. But sometimes, like, if I wasn't in the mood to write a poem, I'm a poet, so I'm always in the mood. But if I don't want to write a poem, if I don't have the ingredients for an incense, or want to choose, like this year I chose to make a sangria, you know, and as an offering to the
I mean,
saints.
that's
So-
I think
great.
that's totally okay.
Yeah.
no, yeah, like don't
The
do
prompts are
clean it
there
up.
as like a
guidelines.
blueprint. But
Guidance.
if you want to go off of it, go
Yeah.
off, sis.
Yeah.
Like
Because every year I've done for the effigy, like the drawing or whatever. I'm not the most confident drawer,
Mhm.
so I do a sigil. I draw a sigil for the sin I'm working with, and it works great.
Yeah.
So
I've always saved the poem for last. Like, I know it's supposed to be done a little earlier, but yeah, it's my very last thing.
yeah,
That way I've already gotten to know it. Yeah.
I would say that, you know, to be a cunning witch means to know how to weave. So if you need to weave the poem at the end or the beginning, if you need to make a meal instead of an incense offering, like be cunning.
yeah.
That would be my advice for anyone who's looking to start this next year.
What will
Like-
help you the best in your craft?
Right. And also, at the end of the day, the Black Lent is about alchemizing sin.
Yeah.
Like, how can you subvert this? How can you invert this to be a positive? How can
Yes.
we embrace this thing that is often viewed as a negative? You know,
Mhm.
Mhm.
for
Yeah, well,
self-empowerment.
Yeah, and
At the
then
end of the day.
the most blasphemous thing to be the heretical self is to do things your way,
Yeah.
not what
Mhm.
someone has told
Somebody put that on a t-shirt immediately.
you. You know, like I hear Frank Sinatra, I'll get my way, you know. But yeah, like do it for you. I mean, this is a really great experience, and I don't know, just do what already comes natural. Like you don't have to go out and buy special tools or anything. Like, you know, all the things that you already have is good enough. And
don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
Yeah,
yeah, I think a lot of people still have hangups about the sins,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
if they're
for
not
sure.
in a religious capacity, but
Yeah,
still a lot of taboos. There's still going to be taboos, worldly taboos, personal shadows that will have to wade through like molasses. It'll feel like walking through molasses, but it's okay, because at the end of the day, these aren't, if you approach it with respect and approach it just like you would an entity, with respect and grace and love and with personal pride, okay, as the daddy, okay, then you'll do fine. And if you
I
have
would say
to do it
witchy
all,
taboos. I would say witchy taboos too, because
like witchy wounds.
yeah, there's been a couple of witches over the years that have felt a knee-jerk sort of reaction
Yeah.
to this
Yeah.
kind of work, because they're like, oh no, I don't want to work with anything that's like Abrahamic. Oh no. Which, for one, you don't have to. Okay, if it's not for you, don't do it. Isn't that fun? You don't have to do things that you don't want to. This is optional, believe it or not. Crazy, I know. For two, if you're having that kind of reaction, you're probably the person to do this kind of work.
Like, there you go.
Right? Yep. Like if you're
Mhm.
having that knee-jerk reaction as a witch, speaking to other witches of, oh no, I don't want to embrace sin. I don't even believe in sin.
Sounds
Maybe
familiar.
spend some time on it.
So it sounds like when you get like that and you close your mind to it, like when I first got to witchcraft, I wanted to close my mind to some of that because I still had a lot of religious trauma. But what I learned was that I started to sound like those deacons of my church, you know, the pastors and everything that were like, you got to do certain things this way and this way and this way. And I started to sound like that in my own head. And I was like, no. I'm going to be an open mind girl. Okay. And I did. Once I started to open my mind to I remember back in the day, I didn't even like the word prayer. There was so much trauma involved. And like now I've opened up so much and unlocked so much of the power that I could take. I took back a lot of power.
Take it back. That's some good advice. Take it back and give it your own power.
Subversion.
Yes.
Some of my best tools are rosaries, believe it or not.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, take it back. I've taken back the word religious, worship, prayer, faith.
Yeah.
You know,
Those
I'm
are
not
all
scared of those words
I
anymore. And
love
I'm not
this
scared to call him the devil. I'm not scared to call him the devil. I'm not scared of that.
Well, y'all, we are coming up on the hour. This has been an absolute pleasure. I want to thank everyone who is in the chat, who is watching this live. I would like to thank everyone who is joining and like the post stream who's not watching live. And I would like to give a very special thanks to Trish, of course. Thank you for starting this with
Aw,
me and
I
for
love
sticking
it.
with me and like doing
You
this
too.
with me. 3 years now, honey.
It's
We're gonna-
wonderful.
We got to see it to the end, at least. We got to do at least what, 2029? Like 4 more years. And
I'm
Abby,
saving the worst one for last.
and Abby and Lennon, thank you both so much for joining as co-hosts. This has been great. I think that Trish and I would both invite you on if you're
Oh,
interested
yes.
for next year. I think it's been nice having co-hosts, Trish.
It's more interesting to hear
Yeah.
other people's view on things than
This
just ours.
conversation has been very cool. Yeah, it's been very cool.
And I want like this. I think this is so powerful that I'm glad that I can come in and co-host because I want other people to think about these things.
Yeah.
So when I post videos, it's not just to be a part of Black Lent; it's to like raise awareness, almost. You know, like
Yes.
Yeah.
look how
And
powerful.
thank you for that.
You know, y'all are the best. I love this. I'm already excited for next year.
Well, until next time, blessed be, and we will see you in the Inferno. Okay? In Dante's Inferno. Bye.